Ferrari brought one strange rear wing to Hungary, and within hours, it had both cars at the top. Charles Leclerc led first practice with a 1-minute 19.075. Then Lewis Hamilton took over in second practice with a 1-minute 18.729, beating Leclerc by 148 thousandths and sealing another Ferrari 1-2. But the real breakthrough may be hidden in one tiny aerodynamic detail above the movable flap. Ferrari's third Macarena evolution was built specifically for Hungary's extreme downforce demands, and the pace lasted throughout the session. Red Bull and McLaren are still close, but if this advantage survives qualifying, Ferrari may have just unlocked the wing concept every rival now has to chase. Subscribe to the channel. At first glance, the Macarena name makes the entire idea sound less serious than it really is. But Ferrari did not bring this wing to Hungary for attention. It brought it for control. Control over the rear of the car. Control over the airflow. Control over the balance through one of the most demanding high downforce circuits on the calendar. And the Hungaroring is exactly the kind of place where a small aerodynamic detail can create a much larger result. This circuit does not reward a car that is only fast in a straight line. It rewards grip. It rewards stability. It rewards confidence. One corner flows into another, then another. There are very few moments when the driver can recover from a mistake. A nervous rear in one braking zone can damage the entire sequence that follows. A weak front end can push the car away from the ideal line. A delayed throttle application can cost speed all the way into the next corner. That is why the rear wing matters so much here. The wing helps create aerodynamic load at the back of the car. That load pushes the tires into the track. It gives the driver more confidence when braking, more support while rotating the car, more stability when returning to the throttle. Those gains may only be worth a few thousandths in one corner. Across an entire lap, they can become the difference between first place and the second row. Ferrari's third Macarena evolution was built for that exact challenge. The visible change was an additional hanger flap above the movable section of the rear wing. It looks small. Its influence may not be. Think of placing a tiny guide inside a stream of water. The guide does not create the water. It changes where the flow goes. It changes the pressure. It changes how everything farther downstream behaves. That is the basic idea behind a small aerodynamic element. It can help shape the airflow around the main flap. It can change how consistently the rear wing produces load. And it can help the entire rear of the car behave more predictably while the driver brakes, turns, and accelerates. That final word is crucial. Predictably. A Formula One car can create enormous downforce in one perfect condition and still be difficult to drive. The car is never completely still. The front moves downward under braking. The rear rises. The tires deform. The steering angle changes. The driver touches curbs. The wind shifts. If the aerodynamic load disappears every time the car moves away from one ideal position, the driver cannot trust it. One corner feels secure. The next feels uncertain. One lap builds confidence. The next destroys it. The best aerodynamic packages do not only create a high peak, they create a wide operating window. A wider window means the driver can attack under more conditions. Different fuel loads, different tire compounds, different track temperatures, different phases of the corner. And Ferrari's Friday suggested the Macarena evolution may have helped create exactly that. Charles Leclerc did not simply set the fastest time in first practice. He was fastest in every sector. That is a powerful detail. His advantage was not hidden in one straight. It was not created by one perfect final corner. The Ferrari worked across the entire lap. Braking zones, slow corners, medium speed changes of direction, traction zones. Every section supported the next. That is what balance looks like. The front and rear are cooperating. The driver is not correcting one weakness with another. He is not surviving the car. He is using it. And Leclerc's 1-minute 19.075 made Ferrari the first clear reference of the weekend. But the morning was not perfect. Leclerc finished the session in the garage because of a reliability problem. The exact issue was not specified in the source, so there is no basis to claim a particular mechanical failure. But the interruption still mattered. Ferrari had shown speed. It had not yet shown complete control. The fastest car is useless if it cannot finish the program. That meant second practice carried a much bigger question. Was Ferrari's pace real? Or had the team produced one impressive session before another problem appeared? Lewis Hamilton answered almost immediately. He opened second practice with a 1 minute, 19.648 on the medium tire. At that stage, he was already 455 thousandths ahead of Leclerc's first attempt, nearly half second, and that tire choice made the lap even more interesting. The medium compound normally gives the driver less immediate grip than the soft. The car has to communicate clearly. The driver has to build confidence. He cannot simply rely on maximum adhesion to hide a weak balance. Hamilton's early pace suggested the Ferrari was already working before the final qualifying style runs began. That is a much stronger sign than one isolated soft tire lap. A narrow performance window can produce one brilliant moment. A strong car begins showing speed much earlier. That was Ferrari's first real warning to Red Bull and McLaren. The pace was not waiting for perfect conditions. It was already there. Then Leclerc raised the level. At 6:43 in the evening, local time, he switched to the soft tire and set a 1 minute, 18.877. First place. The morning leader had returned to the top. For a moment, the order looked familiar again. Leclerc ahead, Hamilton chasing. But 2 minutes later, Hamilton responded. 1 minute, 18.729. 148 thousandths faster. First place reclaimed. Ferrari 1 and 2. That sequence matters more than the final standings alone. Hamilton showed pace early on the medium tire. Leclerc attacked on the soft. Hamilton answered almost immediately. This was not one lucky lap. It was a competitive exchange between two drivers supported by the same car. That is what should concern Ferrari's rivals. When only one driver looks fast, the result can be explained by talent, traffic, or one exceptional run. When both drivers repeatedly occupy the first two positions, the machine itself becomes much harder to dismiss. Ferrari had found something. The open question was how much of that performance came from a Macarena wing, and how much came from a complete package around it. Because one rear wing element does not work alone. The floor matters. The suspension matters. The front wing matters. Ride height matters. Tire preparation matters. The driver matters. The source does not provide an exact lap time gain for the hanger flap by itself. Ferrari has not confirmed that this one component created every part of the advantage. But the timing is still significant. The team introduced the third evolution of the concept. The circuit demanded high downforce. Both Ferrari drivers topped the sessions. The pace lasted through the afternoon. That is more than enough to make every engineer in the paddock study the idea. And the word third may be the most important part of the whole story. Ferrari was not starting from zero. The team had already tested earlier versions. It had already gathered information. It had already seen how the concept behaved under load. It had already learned where the previous versions worked and where they failed. By the time Ferrari reached Hungary, this was not a random experiment. It was a refinement. And refinement is where Formula One development becomes dangerous. The first version may show potential. The second may correct a weakness. The third can become precise. A strange-looking idea begins turning into a specialized weapon. That additional hanger flap may be exactly that kind of precise correction. Not a complete revolution. A small element designed to improve the behavior of the entire rear wing system. And in Formula One, a small correction can decide qualifying. The gap between Hamilton and Leclerc was 148 thousandths. That is almost nothing. One stronger corner entry, one cleaner final sector, one earlier throttle application. That tiny margin can decide who starts first and who starts second. The Macarena evolution did not need to create a dramatic gain on its own. It only needed to make the rear slightly more stable, the airflow slightly more consistent, the driver slightly more confident. Across one lap, those small improvements become decisive. But Ferrari had to pay for that stability. More rear wing load normally creates more drag. The car becomes slower on the straights. At some circuits, that penalty would be too expensive. Hungary changes the calculation. The straights matter, but the linked corners matter more. A car that sacrifices a little top speed can recover far more time through grip and confidence. That is the trade Ferrari appears to have targeted. More support at the rear. Better control under braking. Stronger traction. Enough straight-line speed to avoid losing the advantage. That balance is never easy. Too much rear load can create understeer. The back of the car feels safe, but the front becomes reluctant to turn. The driver adds steering. The front tires begin sliding. Then the team adds more front wing to recover rotation. That can make the rear nervous again. Formula One setup is a constant conversation between the front and rear of the car. One side cannot dominate. Ferrari needed the Macarena evolution to stabilize the rear without making the front lazy. Leclerc's fastest sectors suggested the team came very close. Hamilton's response in second practice suggested the balance worked for both drivers. And that is when the upgrade became more than a visual curiosity. It became the reference package of a weekend. But the rest of the paddock was not standing still. Red Bull had already tested its own interpretation of a similar concept in Belgium. Reports also suggested McLaren was evaluating a related idea in Hungary. The word Macarena was becoming more than a Ferrari nickname. It was becoming a general paddock term for a family of high-load movable wing solutions. That changes the competitive meaning of Ferrari's performance. The team did not simply bring a strange part. It brought the third evolution of an idea its rivals were already trying to understand. Then it went fastest. That is how a development race accelerates. One team introduces something unusual. Another team photographs it. A third develops its own version. Then everyone watches the timing screen. If the concept works, resources move immediately. Designers begin refining. Simulation programs change. New versions appear. Ferrari's 1-2 results may have been the moment the Macarena idea stopped being a curiosity and became a threat. But copying the visible shape will not guarantee the same result. A rival can photograph the hangar flap. It can study the angle. It can recreate the outline. What it cannot see immediately is the understanding behind it. The exact stiffness, the pressure distribution, the way the wing behaves under load, the rear ride height required to make it work, the amount of front wing needed to balance it, the tire preparation that supports it. Those details create performance. The visible part is only the beginning. Ferrari may already understand the complete system. Its rivals may still be trying to understand the shape. That gap in knowledge can be more valuable than the component itself. And the Hungaroring rewards that knowledge brutally. Qualifying position matters here. Overtaking is difficult. The circuit is narrow. Following another car through the long corner sequences reduces front grip. The tires can overheat. The driver loses freedom to use the ideal line. Starting near the front creates control. Starting behind traffic creates compromise. That means a rear wing package capable of improving one-lap confidence can influence the entire race. Better balance creates a stronger qualifying lap.